Hi, I'm Ethan Morgan, and if you're wondering how I went from a food delivery guy sleeping in a freezing hallway to the heir of a $100 billion empire, well, you're not alone. Sometimes I still ask myself the same damn thing. But the day it all changed didn't feel like a fairy tale. It felt like hell, served cold, with a slap across the face and a divorce agreement tossed at my feet. It started right after I turned in my resignation letter. I walked out of that greasy little delivery app office with my head held high, not because I was proud, but because I had a secret. A secret none of them knew, one that made every insult that came after feel almost entertaining. Back home, though, I was met not with concern but a storm. My mother-in-law, Margaret Lewis, was already screaming like she was auditioning for a soap opera. "You lazy bastard. You quit your job. You think money grows on trees?" she snapped, her spit practically flying into my face. Rachel, my wife, or should I say, soon-to-be ex-wife, didn't even wait for the shouting to cool. She slapped a divorce agreement on the table like she was dealing a final hand of poker. "I was going to wait until after you helped me through the pregnancy," she said, not even blinking. "But you're no good to me anymore. I don't want to wait another damn minute." That's when I looked around at the three women I had been living with: Rachel, her sister Chloe, and their mother Margaret. They looked at me with matching disgust. Funny thing is, I wasn't sad. No, I was practically trembling with excitement. Because just hours earlier, a man claiming to be the lawyer for my long-lost grandfather, the richest man on the East Coast, had told me to quit my job immediately and return to the family estate. He said I had an inheritance waiting. I thought he was joking. Until he showed me the documents. Until he showed me the Rolls-Royce parked outside. So yeah, they could scream all they wanted. I didn't care. I picked up the pen and signed the divorce agreement with a smile, like a man buying his freedom. Then I walked to the door, but before I opened it, I hesitated. I heard voices inside, nasty, familiar voices. "Why hasn't Ethan come back yet?" Margaret said, her tone oozing irritation. "What the hell is he doing? He doesn't make money, doesn't clean, doesn't cook. What's the point of a man like that even being alive?" I stood still, my hand on the doorknob, and felt something sharp twist inside me. Not pain, but clarity. I checked my watch, only 10 minutes late. I had just been talking with my grandfather's legal team. That was it. But I'd always been like this, tolerant, naive, even. An orphan who craved a family so badly that I endured every insult, every humiliation, thinking that deep down, maybe they cared. They didn't. Inside, I heard Rachel's voice, cold as steel. "Don't worry, when he comes in, I'll find something to start a fight over like usual. I'll make him kneel on the washboard and watch us eat." The sound of their laughter echoed like knives scraping glass. Suddenly, all those memories made sense: the sudden tantrums, the way Rachel always picked fights at dinner over soup that was too salty or vegetables not soft enough, the nights I went to bed hungry while they ate like royalty. They weren't impulsive. They were calculated. Deliberate. I opened the door slowly, my face blank, my heart colder than it had ever been. The room fell silent. Margaret squinted at me. "You're late. Where have you been? And where are the groceries?" She didn't even wait for an answer. "You didn't buy anything. You want us to starve now?" Rachel stood, her arms crossed. "You better have a good reason." But before I could say a word, Chloe piped up, holding her phone like a trophy. "My friend says you quit your job. Is that true? Who the hell do you think you are, making decisions like that on your own?" "What?" Margaret and Rachel shouted in unison. Margaret looked like she was going to explode. "You know we have a mortgage to pay, $5,000 a month. Rachel only makes $4. What the hell are we supposed to live on?" Rachel's voice was shaking, but not from fear. From fury. "Tell me you didn't resign." Tell me that's a mistake. I kept my voice even. Yes. I resigned. But that's when Rachel slapped me. Hard. The sound cracked through the room. I didn't move. I didn't shout. I just looked at her and said, "You don't care why I resigned? What if I was going through something? What if I had a better opportunity?" Rachel scoffed. Opportunity? You. Be serious. You're a delivery guy. That's all you'll ever be. You think I sit in an office every day because I love it? I do it for the money. You should have begged your boss to keep your job. You should have gotten down on your knees and licked his damn shoes. I stared at her, wondering how I'd missed this side of her for so long. Margaret jumped in, her voice rising. You make just enough to pay the bills. You think you can do better? Get out of here with that fantasy. My hands clenched. My body trembled not with fear, but fury. You think I'm useless? I said. You think I'm a loser? All three of you combined aren't worth what I'm about to inherit. Silence. For the first time ever, they looked at me like they weren't sure what to say. Then Margaret, trying to recover, said, "Whatever. You're a man. You're supposed to take care of your family. Rachel's pregnant, for God's sake." Pregnant? My heart skipped. More than a month? I asked quietly. Rachel didn't answer. Her eyes flickered. I hadn't touched her in over 2 months. She said I smelled like sweat, said I made her sick. Even after I showered. Even after I scrubbed myself raw. I thought she just needed space. I was wrong. That baby isn't mine, is it? I said, staring her down. Rachel's jaw tightened. Then she said the words that shattered the last illusions I had. No. So what? The room swam. I laughed not because it was funny, but because it was all so absurd. Rachel pulled out the divorce agreement again. You're no use to me anymore, she said. So just sign. I skimmed the paper. It demanded that I leave with nothing. Not even the house I paid for. I laughed again, louder this time. You want me to leave with nothing after you cheated on me? Rachel's voice didn't waver. That house was bought with my premarital funds. Margaret and Chloe jumped in, smug as ever. We never charged you rent. You should be grateful. And who do you think you are to raise someone else's kid anyway? You should thank her for not making you do that. I looked at my hand calloused, cracked, the skin around my nails still healing from frostbite. I remembered working double shifts, skipping meals, wearing hand-me-downs just to keep this house running. I didn't say a word. They took my silence for hesitation. What? You don't want to sign? Margaret sneered. You think you have a choice? You're not worthy of my sister, Chloe said. She's finally free of you. Rachel, for a moment, looked almost unsure. Let's just end it peacefully, she said. You still love me. I know you do. But this isn't working. Would you really raise another man's child? I smiled, picked up the pen, and signed my name with a flourish. Done, I said. Good luck. The three of them smiled for the first time that day. Rachel clutched the agreement like it was a winning lottery ticket. Don't forget to show up at the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow, she said. Oh, I'll be there, I replied. Then I pulled out my phone and called my driver. Jacob, bring the car around. Don't use the Rolls. Just bring the Bentley. The line went quiet. Then Jacob said, Yes, sir. I looked at the three stunned faces. You wanted this. Don't come crawling back. And I walked out the door, leaving behind three shocked women, and the miserable version of myself that had once lived in that house. What they didn't know was this: being poor is temporary. But revenge, when it's ripe, is forever. The night air bit at my face as I stepped outside, but the sting felt cleansing. As if every breath I took now belonged to a different man, one who no longer needed to grovel for a scrap of warmth at the feet of people who never truly saw him. The Bentley was already waiting by the curb. Sleek, obsidian black, and humming like a panther about to pounce, it stood out like royalty in this rundown neighborhood of peeling paint and second-hand sedans. Jacob stepped out and opened the rear door with a slight bow. "Sir." I didn't respond right away. I turned my head slightly, half expecting one of them, Rachel, Margaret, even Cleto, burst out the front door, to stop me, to demand to know what the hell was going on. But the door stayed closed, locked tight like their cold little hearts. Cowards. I climbed into the Bentley without a word. As soon as the door closed behind me, Jacob raised an eyebrow in the rearview mirror. "Didn't you say you were going up there to explain the truth and bring your family with you to the manor?" I leaned back, gazing at the ceiling, then turned my head to watch the house disappear behind us. My voice was flat. "Yeah, that was the plan." He didn't push further. "Good man." The city lights passed in smudges of gold and blue, washing over my face as I thought back on how close I'd been to being played for a fool for the rest of my life. If I had explained everything yesterday, if even one of them had bothered to ask me why I resigned, I might have still been standing in that kitchen, cooking dinner with a smile like nothing had changed. But fate has a twisted sense of humor. Their eagerness to tear me down saved me. If Rachel had claimed that child was mine, I would have believed her. I would have raised someone else's kid for decades and thanked her for the privilege. I would have paid for the baby's school, doctor visits, maybe even college, never knowing. A single question. That's all it would have taken to change everything. But none of them asked. Not even once. That silence was my salvation. "Take me to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow morning," I said quietly. 8 sharp. Jacob nodded. I stared out the window, watching the delivery riders weaving through traffic like I used to. One of them wore a torn poncho, his cheeks raw from the wind, his fingers stiff on the handlebars. That had been me. Just yesterday. I used to pray it wouldn't rain, hoped for warm customers, begged for tips. And now I was the one in the car, behind the glass, staring out. Funny how fast the world spins when it wants to. The next morning, I woke early. I didn't sleep well, but I didn't need to. I was too wired with anticipation. I chose a suit custom-stitched by a team of tailors the night before, deep charcoal gray, soft as a whisper, with subtle embroidery only visible under direct light. Not flashy. Not loud. Just sharp enough to say, this is a man with power who doesn't need to prove it. When I walked into the Civil Affairs Bureau, they were already there. Rachel sat stiffly on the metal bench, her eyes darting every few seconds toward the door. Margaret was pacing, arms folded tight across her chest like she was bracing for a storm. Chloe scrolled through her phone, bored and oblivious. Rachel's eyes lit up when she saw me. "You actually came." I smiled without warmth. "You too." She rolled her eyes. "What, you thought I begged you to come back just because you talked big yesterday about some $1 million car? Please. You're delusional." I didn't answer. I just walked up to the window and handed over the paperwork. The clerk barely looked up. Divorce must be routine here. In less than 15 minutes, it was done. We held the red divorce certificates in our hands, identical tokens of our shattered marriage. "Well," Rachel said, lips tight, "that's that." Margaret tilted her head, finally noticing what I was wearing. "You look different," she said slowly. "Almost decent." Chloe frowned, staring hard at my suit. "Where'd you get that?" she muttered. "I don't recognize the brand, but it looks expensive." I said nothing. Of course she didn't. This wasn't a brand you could find at any store. It was bespoke, tailored in silence and sewn in wealth. I was about to turn and leave when it happened. A voice behind me called out with an excited gasp, "It's you." Oh my God, it really is you. I turned around. A young woman, mid-20s, stylish but modest, was jogging toward me with a business card in hand. "You're Ethan Morgan, right? The missing heir of the Morgan family? The richest man's grandson?" The temperature in the room dropped. Rachel's family froze. I could feel their eyes burning into my back like laser sights. I didn't flinch. I gave her a polite smile. "Yes. But I don't believe we've met." She blinked, then laughed softly, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I'm Emily Harper, reporter for Urban News. I just happened to overhear your name. I'm not stalking you, I swear. But would you consider an exclusive interview? Everyone wants to know how the Morgan family found their missing heir. There are rumors you'll take over Just Hen Group. Is it true? How did you live these past 20 years? How were you lost? There are thousands of people with missing children. Your story could bring them hope." I was about to respond when laughter exploded behind me. Harsh. Mocking. I turned my head slightly, and there they were, Rachel, Margaret, and Chloe, howling like hyenas. Chloe, red-faced from laughing, managed to wheeze out, "This is your best one yet, Ethan. What's next? You gonna tell us you're Batman?" Rachel's eyes were glistening with tears of amusement. "You're really trying to make us regret divorcing you, huh? Did you hire an actress to play the reporter too?" I didn't answer. I simply smiled at Emily. "Actually, I'd be happy to do the interview." Emily blinked. "Really? But not here," I added. "Let's go somewhere quieter. My car is right outside." I started walking toward the exit. Emily followed, and so did the three women, though they tried to act like they weren't. When they caught sight of the car, everything changed. A limited edition Rolls-Royce. Silver trim. Custom interior. Margaret gasped. Chloe stumbled. Rachel's face lost all color. She rushed up to the window and slammed her hand against the glass. "Ethan. Explain yourself. How the hell are you? What the hell is this?" I rolled the window down slowly. Her voice was shaking now. You were poor yesterday. You can't just suddenly be." I didn't let her finish. I raised the privacy shade and nodded at Jacob. "Drive." As we pulled away, I could still hear their voices, muffled by the glass. I didn't look back. But inside, my heart thumped with a strange rhythm, not quite triumph, not quite sadness. Just release. I had tried so hard to be good to them. I had bent over backwards to earn their love. But they never saw meant it really. Until now. Until it was too late. And I wasn't the man I used to be. Not anymore. Emily Harper sat beside me in the back seat of the Rolls-Royce, her notepad resting delicately on her lap, eyes glinting with curiosity. She looked like someone who lived for uncovering stories others wanted to bury, but she carried herself with restraint, knowing instinctively when silence was more powerful than questions. As we cruised through the city's upscale district, the skyline sparkling above us, she finally spoke. "So what changed, Mr. Morgan?" Her voice was soft, respectful. "Why did you suddenly decide to accept your inheritance now?" I leaned back, watching raindrops begin to race each other down the tinted windows. "I didn't know I had one," I said flatly. "I thought I was alone. Until last week, I was just another guy trying to make ends meet, delivering takeout, scrubbing dishes at a diner at night." I paused. Then I got a call. They said I was the missing grandson of Frederick Morgan. I thought it was a scam. But it wasn't, she whispered, almost to herself. No, I replied. It wasn't. It was the start of a new chapter. Or maybe the real one. Emily nodded slowly and opened her notebook, but before she could get another question out, my phone buzzed. The screen flashed with a number I hadn't saved, but I recognized it. Margaret. I debated ignoring it, but some part of me, some foolish, still soft shard, wanted to hear what excuse they would make. I answered. Hello. The voice on the other end was unrecognizable at first. Gentle. Humble. Ethan. It's Mom, Margaret. Please, can you come to the hospital? Rachel. She's not well. She lost the baby. I said nothing. My silence stretched into seconds, and Margaret, sensing my hesitation, added, they say that even after divorce, 100 days of kindness still bind husband and wife. Please, just come see her. I beg you. I hung up without a word. My expression must have changed, because Emily stopped scribbling. Everything all right? They want a performance, I muttered. Let's give them one. The hospital room was dim, muted by sterile lighting and the soft beeping of machines. Rachel lay on the bed, pale, her face devoid of the defiant venom she used to wear like war paint. Her lips cracked into a frail smile when she saw me. You came, I crossed my arms, staying just far enough that her outstretched hand wouldn't reach. Why am I here? Chloe stood at the bedside, dabbing her sister's forehead with a tissue like a scene from a cheap drama. Don't be like that, Ethan. She's been through a lot. I laughed under my breath. So have I. Rachel forced a tear to roll down her cheek. I didn't cheat on you. I was forced. I didn't know what to do. I wanted to abort it, but the doctor said it was dangerous. I was scared. Spare me, I said, voice like glass. You threw me out like garbage and now you want to rewrite the script. Margaret stepped forward, all sweet motherly concern. She did it for you, Ethan. She didn't want to burden you. That's why she divorced you. I turned to her, tilting my head. Let me get this straight. She cheated on me. For me. Margaret faltered, stammering. Chloe interjected quickly, she was scared, okay. But she still loves you. We all do. We know we were wrong. Let's start over. Rachel's hand trembled as she reached for me again. I know I hurt you, but you still love me, right? I stared at her, really stared, and all I saw was a stranger. A woman I once loved so much I ignored all the signs. I let her walk all over me, believing that one day she'd see my worth. You remember what you said when you thought I had nothing? I asked, my voice low. You said I wasn't even worth the air I breathed. That I should have died outside. Do you remember? Their faces turned pale again, guilt crawling like mold across the walls. Now you see a Rolls-Royce and a news anchor, and suddenly I'm your long-lost hero. I smiled. Not kindly. You don't want me. You want what comes with me. Margaret tried one last plea. Ethan, you're the heir to billions. You can't turn your back on family. Family? I repeated, almost amused. You treated me like a servant. You let me freeze in the hallway while you laughed at my hunger. Rachel's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they weren't convincing. Please, I didn't mean, I held up a hand. Save it. You lost your chance. I came here to see if you changed. All I found were better actors. I turned to walk out. But before I could reach the door, Chloe snapped. You're not that special, Ethan. You think we care? You're just bitter because you finally got money and have no one to share it with. I looked back once. Better to have no one than parasites. And I left. That evening, my name was everywhere. Ethan Morgan abandons pregnant wife. Trending topic 3. The headlines were brutal. The live stream was worse. Rachel was in bed, sobbing to a camera. Chloe and Margaret flanked her like guards. I don't know why he divorced me, she sniffled. I begged him to stay for the child, Margaret chimed in, dabbing her own eyes, we just found out he's the Morganaire. He thinks we're beneath him now. Chloe, ever the performer, leaned in with a sigh, we treated him like family, but he never loved my sister. He just used us until he got rich. I stared at the screen, cold rage blooming in my chest. Their voices were a symphony of lies, expertly tuned to manipulate the public. The comments poured in, scumbag. Rich jerk. Heartless traitor. I closed the app, my hands tightening around the phone. My grandfather's crisis team moved quickly. Meetings, lawyers, PR reps, everyone had a solution. But none of them knew how to undo a lie once it had gone viral. We can try, one PR consultant said, but the damage is done. No one believes the man in the suit. They believe the woman in tears. My grandfather patted my back. Don't let it break you, Ethan. Our family has faced worse storms. But I wasn't broken. I was boiling. Then let's give them the truth, I said. Let's burn their lies to the ground. And just like that, the real game began. The internet is a bonfire, bright, hungry, and stupid. Feed it a sob story, and it howls. Feed it a villain, and it devours. I spent an entire evening watching my name rot under hashtags like monster husband and rich trash, while strangers who had never seen my face condemned me with the certainty of gods. Rachel had played her role perfectly. The pale skin, trembling voice, hollowed-out eyes. She had every woman online calling her sister, and every man calling me worse than a traitor. But the thing about lies is, they're fragile. You just need the right hammer. So I got one. Actually, I got two. First was Brandon Cole, the bald-headed department director Rachel used to fawn over like a teenage groupie. My team found him in a karaoke bar, drunk, divorced, broke, and bitter. For the price of a plane ticket and a good bottle of scotch, he gave us everything. Chat logs. Hotel receipts. Even a tearful on-camera confession. She begged me to leave my wife, he slurred. Said she'd divorce her loser husband if I got a promotion. I lost everything because of her. He sniffled. And she told me the baby was mine. God help me, I believed her. We let him talk. We filmed everything. Every word, every pause, every damn tear. Then we moved on to hammer number 2, the surveillance footage. See, Margaret once accused me of stealing a missing gold bracelet. To prove my innocence, I secretly installed a camera in the living room. They thought it was disabled. They were wrong. The cloud backup remained untouched, tucked safely in my private server. And oh, the things it caught. Conversations that made my blood run cold. Rachel mocking me, Margaret insulting me, Chloe joking about watching me starve all while sipping wine and eating takeout I had paid for. But the real prize was the audio clip where Rachel admitted, casually and cruelly, the baby isn't his. Why should he know? That was the bullet. I released everything at once. Not through a press conference, not through some sanitized PR campaign. No, I uploaded it raw and unfiltered to my personal channel. No logo. No intro music. Just truth. The internet lit up like it had been struck by lightning. Wait, she lied about the baby. That guy was feeding them and they were laughing at him. She made him kneel on a washboard. What year is this, 1940? The tide didn't just turn, it collapsed. The same accounts that had cursed my name now demanded Rachel's arrest. Thousands of comments poured in. I sent her money. She conned me. Cancel her. Rachel tried to respond. Another live stream. She cried again, clutched tissues, wore even more makeup than before. I just wanted an apology, she whispered. He bribed that man to lie. He paid him to frame me. But the damage was done. Every denial sounded like another lie. That night, her account was banned. Chloe's, too. Margaret's page was flooded with clown emojis. Their sympathy donations were frozen. Their GoFundMe was shut down. And me? I wasn't satisfied yet. Because this wasn't about revenge, it was about cleansing. I filed lawsuits. Libel. Defamation. Malicious intent. Fraud. My lawyers didn't hold back. They hunted every account involved in the slander campaign, subpoenaed metadata, tracked IP addresses. The three women were cornered. Their smug laughter replaced by terrified whispers. They tried to sell the house. Too late. Court froze their assets. Tried to flee. Border alert systems pinged their IDs. In the end, they were sentenced to 2 years. Light, maybe, but poetic. Poetic enough. On the day they were taken away, Rachel looked at me like a ghost seeing its own grave. Please, she mouthed. But I just watched. Silent. Still. Unmoved. Months passed. Seasons shifted. I buried myself in work, learning the ropes of Just Hen Group, navigating boardroom politics, managing estates and investments. I was no longer the man who begged for respect, I was the man who commanded it. And then, one crisp spring morning, news came. The Lewis women were out. Prison gates opened. Their faces were older, thinner, but still trying to wear that same familiar mask. But no one welcomed them back. They returned to nothing. The house had been sold. The money gone. Reputation scorched. Job prospects? Zero. Social standing? Negative. They were internet pariahs. They tried to survive. Some said they turned to desperate measures. Selling cheap goods online, working odd jobs, even doing things I won't repeat. But I didn't watch. I didn't follow up. Their fall was complete. Their existence no longer relevant. Meanwhile, I was married again. My grandfather arranged the match, but it turned out better than I expected. She was calm, sharp, elegant. Kind without being naive. Loyal without being weak. When she smiled, it didn't feel like manipulation. It felt like peace. On the day she gave birth to our twins, I stood in the hospital room, holding 2 tiny lives in my arms. I thought of Rachel. Of Margaret. Of Chloe. Of the washboard. Of the freezing hallway. And I smiled. This, I whispered to my newborn son, is the life you'll never have to fight to be loved in. I didn't get revenge. I got freedom. And for me, that was sweeter than any payback could ever be. They say prison changes people, and I believe it now, not because I watched them become better, but because I saw them crawl out broken. The day Rachel, Chloe, and Margaret were released, the sky was overcast like the world itself wanted to wash its hands of them. They didn't know I was watching from a nearby car. I didn't plan to be there, I told myself I was too busy, that it didn't matter anymore. But curiosity is a stubborn ghost, and so I sat silently in the back seat, arms folded, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses. What I saw wasn't justice. It wasn't karma in some glorious, satisfying form. It was pathetic. The same women who once strutted through life like they owned the streets now shuffled out in faded thrift store coats, eyes hollow, cheeks gaunt. No media. No friends. Not a soul waiting for them. Just gray pavement and an uncaring wind. Their luggage consisted of plastic bags. That's it. I watched Margaret try to call someone. Her face dropped with every unanswered ring. Chloe sat on the curb, hugging her knees, muttering something bitter to herself. And Rachel, once the cold queen of my world, looked up at the clouds like she expected the sky to collapse just to match her mood. I could have driven off. I should have. But a darker part of me wasn't finished. Not yet. That night, I had my assistant call them anonymously. Said someone was willing to give them a fresh start if they met at a certain diner at a certain time. They came, of course. Hunger makes people reckless. I arrived late, unannounced. Walked through the door wearing a coat they couldn't afford in their dreams. The second Rachel saw me, she shot to her feet, face twisted between rage, shame, and a flicker of desperate hope. "You," she breathed. Margaret coughed awkwardly. "Ethan, we weren't expecting you, but I know," I said, calmly sliding into the booth across from them. "You thought someone else was stupid enough to help you." Chloe glared at me. "Why are you here? To gloat?" I smiled gently. "No. I'm here to offer you a job." That got their attention. Margaret leaned forward. "You mean it?" I took my time. "I need janitors. For one of the auxiliary buildings at Just Hen. It pays minimum wage. No benefits. And yes, you'll be cleaning bathrooms. Especially the ones the board members use after long steak lunches." Chloe's face turned red instantly. "Are you insane?" Rachel looked like she'd just been slapped. "You think we'd clean toilets for you?" I shrugged. "You already tried cleaning your reputation and failed. This might be your next best shot." Margaret's voice shook. "You're enjoying this, aren't you?" "No," I said honestly. "But I do think it's poetic. You made me feel like less than a man for years. I begged for dignity and got mockery. Now you're begging for scraps, and I'm giving you exactly what you gave me, choices wrapped in humiliation." Chloe stormed out first. Rachel followed after a moment of hesitation, her voice low and trembling. "I didn't always hate you, Ethan. I just hated being poor." "And I didn't hate you," I replied. "Until you showed me I never mattered." Margaret stayed longest. She looked at me the way someone looks at a mirror they don't recognize anymore. "You used to be kind." "I still am," I said. "Just not to you." After they left, I stayed in that booth for a long time, staring into my untouched coffee. The waitress came by and whispered, "You okay, sir?" I nodded, slid a $100 bill under the cup, and walked out into the drizzle. A month later, I got news: their house had been sold at auction. Proceeds divided part to me as legal compensation, the rest refunded to donors who were scammed by Rachel's fake live streams. With nowhere left to go, they returned to their hometown, a forgotten corner in the middle of nowhere where even rumors got tired of traveling. They tried to rebuild. But gossip moves fast and sticks hard. No one would hire them. No one would rent to them. They tried to lie low. Then they tried to sell their stories. Then they tried to disappear. I didn't chase them. I didn't need to. Just knowing that the very world they once used to ridicule me now closed every door to them, that was enough. I focused on my life. My children were growing fast. Twins with more personality than I could handle, both smart and sharp-tongued like their mother. My wife remained my quiet harbor, never once questioning where I went when I disappeared into thought. She didn't try to dig up my scars. She just gave me space when I needed it, and warmth when I didn't know I needed it. One evening, as I was putting the twins to bed, my son asked, "Dad, what did you do before becoming a CEO?" I looked at him and smiled. "I delivered food." His eyes widened. "Like on a bike?" "Yep. Rain, wind, snow, you name it. Was it fun? Not really, I chuckled. But it taught me something no business school can. What's that? He whispered. I tucked his blanket in a little tighter and kissed his forehead. That people will treat you based on what they think you're worth. But your worth never changes, only their vision does. He nodded slowly, the kind of nod kids give when they don't fully understand but know it's important. I turned off the light and sat outside the nursery, listening to their breathing slow into dreams. In the silence, I thought of Rachel again, just for a second. I don't miss her. But sometimes, I remember her. The way she looked at me when she realized she'd lost everything. It wasn't regret. It was hunger for the life she'd never have again. And I don't blame her for wanting it. I just blame her for stepping on me to get it. So no, this isn't a story about revenge. Not really. It's a story about sight, how I stopped looking for love in people who only saw me as a tool, how I learned to walk away from burning buildings without looking back, and how I finally found peace not in their downfall but in my own rise. The air was still that morning. No wind, no movement, just the kind of eerie calm that makes you feel like the world is holding its breath. I stood at the edge of my private terrace, overlooking the emerald lawn of the Morgan estate, the city far below bathed in a warm, golden haze. A tray of untouched breakfast sat behind me, steam curling lazily upward from a cup of black coffee I no longer craved. My phone buzzed once, twice, then went silent again. I didn't need to check. I already knew. Another message from someone I used to know. Another headline about someone I used to be. These days, people called me Mr. Morgan, with reverence, some with resentment. I had inherited not just a fortune, but a spotlight that refused to dim. My decisions now affected thousands. One boardroom nod from me could make or break entire divisions. My time was currency sought, scheduled, and sold in minutes. But this morning, I wasn't thinking about quarterly reports or mergers. I was thinking about how far I'd come and how much of me had been burned away along the way. My reflection in the glass was sharper now. Clean-cut, composed, calm. But my eyes still held remnants of the man who once stared through cheap apartment windows, counting change to afford groceries for a family that never said thank you. The phone buzzed again. This time, I picked it up. A message from a distant acquaintance. Did you see what happened to Rachel? I didn't respond, but I read on. Apparently, Rachel had tried to reinvent herself under a new name in another state. A small town. She lied on a job application, got hired at a boutique cafe, and for a while, no one knew who she was. But the internet never forgets. A customer recognized her. Word spread. Within days, she was gone again, vanishing like a stain in a tide of shame. Chloe hadn't fared much better. After a string of failed service jobs and an attempt at monetizing pity on social media exposing their tragic fall from grace, she faded into irrelevance. Last I heard, she was living off odd jobs and couch surfing between relatives who barely tolerated her. Margaret? No one knew for sure. Some said she went back to her hometown, holed up in a rundown apartment she rarely left. Others claimed she worked at a laundromat and never spoke to anyone unless forced to. It didn't matter. Their stories had ended the day they decided mine didn't deserve to exist. I deleted the message, slid my phone into my pocket, and turned back inside. My wife was setting a small vase of fresh flowers on the dining table. She looked up and smiled, not the kind of smile you perform for appearances, but one that softens you without trying. "You're quiet this morning," she said gently. "Thinking again?" I nodded. "Just sweeping out the old ghosts." She walked over and slipped her hand into mine, her grip firm but warm. "You don't have to look back anymore." I tilted my head slightly. "Maybe. But I do. Not out of regret. Out of respect for the version of me who survived all that." She understood without needing further words. That's what made her different. She never demanded explanations. Never needed to be impressed. She loved me in silence, in steadiness, in the calm after storms. Later that day, we visited the company headquarters. The lobby had changed since I first stepped in, as a grand chandelier hung from the ceiling now, and the floor gleamed like marble poured straight from heaven. People nodded as I passed. Bowed, even. But none of it made me feel bigger. Just heavier. I attended a shareholder meeting. Fielded questions about expansions, about a new charity branch I'd founded for disadvantaged youth anonymously, of course. Because if anyone knew how it felt to be invisible while you bled for others, it was me. When the meeting ended, one of the younger board members approached me. "Sir," he said hesitantly, "forgive me, but how did you become like this? So poised?" I smiled and leaned in slightly. By being broken. Over and over. Until the pieces that weren't me finally fell off. He blinked, unsure whether it was wisdom or warning. Maybe it was both. That evening, we had a family dinner. Nothing extravagant. Just grilled salmon, rosemary potatoes, and laughter around a round table. My twins competed to tell stories from school. My wife laughed with that quiet glow that always made the house feel like home. And me? I listened more than I spoke. Because now, I didn't need to prove anything. I had already won the only war that mattered, the one inside me. As I tucked the kids into bed later, my daughter looked up at me and asked innocently, "Daddy, did anyone ever bully you when you were little?" I paused. Time folded in on itself for a heartbeat. I saw Rachel sneering, Margaret pointing, Chloe laughing with her phone in hand. And I smiled. "Yes," I said, brushing her hair back. "But I learned something important." "What?" she whispered. "That when people treat you like dirt, it's not because you are, it's because they think you'll never rise above them." "Did you?" she asked, eyes wide. "I did," I whispered. And I never looked back. After she fell asleep, I stood in the doorway, watching the gentle rise and fall of her breath. The house was silent, safe, full. I stepped outside once more before turning in, the night sky stretching above me like a dark canvas scattered with light. I breathed in the cool air. No more vengeance. No more anger. Just the quiet rhythm of a life I rebuilt with bloody hands and a stubborn heart. And in that stillness, I whispered to no one in particular, let them say whatever they want. Let them twist the past. I don't need the world to know the truth. I closed the door behind me. Because I lived it.